بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Wilayat Takwiniyyah is relatively a new expression that our scholars express. It's referring to certain status, spiritual status of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam, Anbiya, Awliya, and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, particularly alayhim salam. At the time of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam, those who were frequent and they had the opportunity to visit them in person, be in their houses, they often would notice certain knowledge from them that is extraordinary knowledge. Certain actions that were extraordinarily actions that we refer to as karamat, miracles, or mu'jizat. Now, the attitudes of people towards these extraordinary knowledge and actions were different. Some of them, who historically known as Ghulat and Mufawiddah, they were going to one side of the extreme. They ended up claiming in their divinity, yani the divinity of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam. And what I'm saying is mentioned in the Riwayat exactly. Or they claim that they are also prophets, astaghfirullah. Or they claim that because of their status, their high status, as far as you believe in them and you love them, no need to pray, fast, go to Hajj, and therefore they cease to practice any of the worshiping acts. A group of them also were known as Mufawiddah. Mufawiddah were those who claimed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the authority of delegation to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam to create, to provide sustenance and things like that. And he, like as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this task to them and he left the world or left it completely to them without interfering or being under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything at all, known as Mufawiddah. Now, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam obviously explicitly denounced them and explicitly declared them as mushrik, kafir, and have been advising the Shia community to dissociate themselves from them and make sure that your children, youth, and others, they are not associating with them. This was the Ghulat. On the other side of the spectrum, we had people that with their attitude towards like extraordinary knowledge and performance actions of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt was completely on the opposite side, extreme, on the other side of the extreme. And that was what today they refer to them, and there is a hadith, I'm not sure about the authenticity of it, as Ulema Abrar, like as if they were only pious, righteous scholars, nothing further. In as much as today, for example, you say Ayatollah Sistani, pious, righteous scholar, and other Maraja, they would perceive them like that, nothing more than that. I'm not sure how many examples really historically we can find for this group, but perhaps if we want to give some explanations, the reason for this kind of attitude was because the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam were so much denouncing and declaring those Ghulat as mushrik. Some, they were scared that less would be mushrik, so better to be on the safe side and then go to the extreme. Absolute majority of the Shia community, however, are known as Shaykh al-Mufid rahmatullah alayhi in his book Awal al-Maqalat refers to as Muhaqqin. Muhaqqin, that means those who are on the right path, on the right track. They were on the true belief with regards to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam. They did not believe in what the Ghulat believed, and they did not believe in what the Muqassirin. The second group, by the way, he refers to them as Muqassirin, and those that they had shortcomings in their belief with regards to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt al-Musalam. Now, what is the proof for those who claim in the spiritual status of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt? If you were asking them, they would say, it's happening in front of my eyes. I don't need any proof. And like, for example, if you ask me that did Ayatollah Bahjat had certain extraordinary power or knowledge or things like that, I will tell you that yes, I have witnessed that. I don't have any proof for that. But Again, if we want to prove this Wilayat Takwiniyyah, there are numbers of proof and evidence from the Quran, from the riwayat, and things like that. In this limited time that you have given me, I only mentioned one example. In a nutshell, all the miracles that you see Quran is quoting and narrating and mentioning from the Prophets ﷺ are examples of the Wilayat Takwiniyyah in today's language, are examples of their spiritual status due to their nearness and proximity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the Almighty God enabled them by His leave and permission to do that. I'll give you an example. And the examples are numerous in the Quran. There is no doubt that Islamically, according to the absolute monotheistic approach, everything in the nature, in the creations, in the command, under the command of the Almighty God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, says, Allahu alladhi yursilu riyah. It is the Almighty God who sends the winds, no doubt about it. All right. So winds, the nature, all under the command of subjugation of the Almighty God. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Sad, when he's talking about the miracles that the Almighty God enabled Prophet Sulaiman, this is the ayah, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. God says, فَسَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحَ تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ رُخَاءً حَيْثُ أَصَابَ. Pay attention to the wordings of the Quran, how accurately it is worded, so that Tawheed and the Wilayat Takwiniyyah of Prophet Sulaiman are at the same time introduced here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَسَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحَ. Sakharna, it means God says that we, the majestic Allah, have subjugated and made it like subservient for him, yani for Sulaiman. What? Wind, a-rih. So we have made, God says that we, the majestic God, has made wind subjugated and subservient for Prophet Sulaiman. فَسَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحَ تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ. Tajri, that means wind, flows. I'm translating it word by word. Tajri be'amreh. The wind flows by his command. The command of who? The command of Sulaiman. Tajri be'amreh. If it was the command of God directly, God was tajri be'amrena. No. God says tajri be'amreh. That means that the wind flows and blows and moves by the command of Sulaiman. Rukha'an, gently, haythu asab, wherever he wants it to go, wherever he desired. So first of all, God is saying that Prophet Sulaiman did not do any of these on his own accord. Sakharna lahu rih. We have made wind subservient to him. So there is nothing wrong with this tawheed in this ayah. Tawheed is there. It's under the command of God. Yet God says that we have enabled him to do this. This is called Wilayat Takwiniyyah, of Prophet Sulaiman to be able to influence the nature that God has created. And that is sending the wind gently under his command. So Prophet Sulaiman commands the wind to go eastward, goes eastward. Westward, goes westward. Haythu asab, how far to go, where to go? So what is the limit of the Wilayat Takwiniyyah? This ayah has explained about the limit. Haythu asab, as he desired. The problem is that when people read this ayah, come across these expressions, they compare them with themselves. Quran says, ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. That is the little knowledge, because I cannot do it, then nobody can do it. And they deny it. Don't be like this. Just because it's, if you and I, we say that based on my wish and desire, they think that the wish and the desire of Anbiya, Awliya is like our wish and desire. No, their wish and desire, مَا يَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Their will, their wish, their desire is under the will, or how can I say, is like dissolved in the wish and will and the desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, in famous hadith that Imam al-Hujj quoted from Imam al-Hujj Jallallah Farajahu Sharif, the Imam says, قُلُوبُنَا أَوْعِيَةٌ لِمَشِيَّةِ اللَّهِ. Our hearts are the containers of the will of God. فَإِذَا شَاءَ شِئْنَا. Whenever God wills, we will. So our will is based on the will of God. Our will to know something now miraculously is based on the will of God, who has allowed us to have this will. To do certain things, call it miracle, is based on when the Almighty God allows us and wills so that we perform this miracle. It's not just as my wish, as we refer to it,
as our wish and desire and things like that. So this is one example from the Quran, and there are numerous examples, hadith, qurb al-nawafil and other